Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar. My name is Vinayak Hegde and I am the CTO in Residence for Microsoft for Startups. I help startups with product and tech, and our team runs various programs across the world to help startups. Welcome to the session of Introduction to GitHub. And in this session, we'll give a brief overview of how you can make the best use of GitHub Enterprise available for you as part of the MFS program. We'll also cover how you can leverage some of the new security, DevOps, and collaboration features on GitHub to accelerate software development and fuel innovation. We'll also have ample time for Q&A. Join us for this session and come to us with questions on how we can help you grow your startups. Before I hand it over to Dhanashree, who heads business development for GitHub, I just want to do a few housekeeping announcements. We'll be taking short breaks, to answer questions, and you can keep on asking your questions as you go in the chat, and we'll be answering those questions live on the webinar as well as in the chat. So, with that housekeeping out of the way, over to you, Dhanashree. Let's kick off this webinar.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Vinayak. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Sorry to start with that question, folks, but good morning, good evening to all of you from wherever you're joining us. We are truly delighted to have you here. My name is Dhanashree. I'm a business development manager at GitHub, like Vinayak mentioned. I work very closely with GitHub community team and the amazing startup ecosystem folks such as yourselves. So we are truly delighted to have you here. So as part of the Microsoft for Startup cohorts, you are actually eligible for GitHub Enterprise licenses. So we are very happy to showcase all the features that you can leverage with GitHub Enterprise. So today I am going to cover an overview of GitHub, how you can accelerate DevSecOps with GitHub, and we look at how GitHub, Azure, and Visual Studio are better together. Like Vinayak mentioned, we have time for Q&A at the end of the session. But before that, we would love if you could go over to our poll page and answer a few questions. It'll help us make our subsequent workshops much easier and better. So Vinayak, can you please paste the poll link?
Yes, I'll just do that in a bit.
Sure. So folks, in the meantime, from wherever you're joining us, it'll be great if you could write in the name of your organization or the location you're joining us from. It'll be great to get to know you folks. For those who are joining us right now, we are just doing a short poll. My name is Dhanashree. I'm part of the business development team here at GitHub.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I pasted the poll, and yeah, we're waiting to hear from you. If you can just, everyone can just take the poll.
Folks, some housekeeping items, like Vinayak mentioned, we do have a presentation and a demo for you today. At the end of the session, we have reserved some time for Q&A. But in the meantime, we really want to make this interactive. We want to answer all your questions. So if you have questions during the presentation, please type those in the chat, in the Teams chat window, and we have colleagues here who can help answer those. Vinayak, how are we on the poll? Are we getting any responses? Hey, welcome folks who are joining us now.
Yes, we are getting responses, but Dhanashree, let's kind of move on because
I
it
will
might
go
take a
ahead.
little bit of time
Okay.
for people to fill in the polls. So,
Okay.
so let's
Sounds
get
good.
started. Yeah.
Sounds great. So guys, let's dive right in. I do need to apologize for the light situation here. I'm not at home, so we have to make do with this light. So let me start with a little story, right? Around 2007, three engineers who are our co-founders, they wanted to create a social platform for developers to host and share code. So what they did was they took Git, which, as you all know, is a distributed source control management system, and they built on top of it to make a more internet-friendly and browser-friendly platform. Now, cut to today, as you can see, we have over 73 million developers using GitHub. 84% of the Fortune 100s are using GitHub as well. Of course, GitHub is where a lot of open source projects like Docker, Kubernetes were born and grew. But also, we have the most innovative companies like Stripe, Netflix, Tesla, building the next generation of software here. We've also rolled out a lot of security features. So the global leading enterprises are on GitHub, and we are able to help them accelerate their software development journey. Today, we are also the largest DevSecOps ecosystem in the industry, and we offer developers the flexibility of choosing your preferred programming language, your preferred CI/CD tool of choice, your preferred framework. And that's why this massive adoption and the numbers that you can see today. So a goal at GitHub is really simple. So how do we make the developer really, really productive? Because this in turn accelerates software development. And as startups, I'm sure this ties into your goals of going to market faster with more reliable and secure software, right? So what is GitHub Enterprise really? So a very brief description is think of it as a secure umbrella around your organization. GitHub Enterprise allows you to manage large teams in a number of organizations, and you can apply these policies and security controls across those. Um, as startups, of course, I understand that you might be smaller right now in size, but as you grow to your unicorn valuations, which is our wish for you, we really want to grow with you. And those are the kinds of controls that GitHub Enterprise affords and gives you. Now, how do we do this? And why are so many of the leading global enterprises, the most innovative companies building on GitHub? That is because we are providing these four pillars on top of this community powered platform. Now, what we are really helping you do is innovate, act on the new opportunities, meet new business goals. As you can see, I had mentioned earlier, we have 73 million developers using GitHub today. And what we've done really is leverage all the wisdom of those developers, whether they are in open source projects, whether they are high school students, whether they are in government organizations or the leading global enterprises, and actually incorporate those changes, those feedback, their wisdom back into the platform so that it's useful to all of you here today. Now, let's talk about the first pillar here, which is collaboration. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, already know and use GitHub, but the way we help with collaboration is essentially with issues, with discussions, with code reviews, with pull requests. And what are these? For a primer, for folks who do not know, issues allows you to keep track of, say, tasks or feature enhancements or even bugs for your project. And this is way more collaborative than using an email, because what it helps you do is allow team members to create a historical record of the decisions that were made. That could be a success or a failure or just attempted. Pull requests is something that was pioneered at GitHub, and today it is the best practice used across the software development industry. And pull request essentially allows you to tell other people on your team about the changes that you are proposing. So that can be in code or documentation. So all the collaborators, your team members, can then have a conversation right next to the code that you're writing. And this really enhances the ideas and improves the quality of the code. Code reviews, think of this as a way of branch protection, right? Because we are ensuring that without code reviews, say certain changes cannot be merged back into your production or your main code base. Apart from that, GitHub has, of course, now the project boards, and we keep improving on this every day. So if you have the basic Kanban work that you would do, GitHub project boards is something you should definitely check out, because this is one less project management tool that you would need to purchase. GitHub for mobile is something I use quite extensively as well. And with GitHub for mobile, you can approve your pull requests on the go. You can access issues. You can browse GitHub for users and repos. So it's pretty handy when you're really away from your laptop. And I'm going to go through all of these code spaces, the collaboration features in a demo later on. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about pull requests or code reviews or issues, right? These are really the bread and butter or the core features that GitHub started with. But we are innovating in new areas as well. So consider the day one onboarding for you, right, in your team or for someone else joining into your team. How much time did it take you to set up your developer environment? If you could just paste some numbers, I'd be very surprised if it is less than a day or less than 2 days, right? So if you could paste some numbers, that'll be great. Just how much time did it take for you to be productive when you joined a new team or a new project? So what we are trying to do at GitHub here is with code spaces, we offer you an instant, customizable container-based development environment in the cloud. And with code spaces, you can be productive immediately. And this can simplify the process of hardware management, of maintenance, and procurement. Especially today, when you look at the situation we are in with the pandemic, it's really tough to get all the hardware and maintain all of it, right? So code spaces is something that really helps with it. um Vinay, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Okay, there is some light situation here. So I'm going to turn off my camera. I think there's some bandwidth issue, but I'm going to go ahead and go into my demo now. So folks who are joining in right now, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to enter them in the Teams chat window, and one of my colleagues here will get to it. Okay. So I need to share my screen again. Okay. Vinay, can you let me know when you can see
I can see your screen.
the browser? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect,
yeah.
perfect. Okay, guys, so the demo, I want to walk through, what a typical life in the day of a developer would look like. Okay, so if you log into GitHub and you log into your the repository, which is essentially the landing page or the main page of your project. This is where your code is stored along with all the commit history. So this is what it would look like, right? So typically, say what would happen in the morning, you would say attend a stand up or meet with your team lead, maybe go over to the project boards that you've defined. So which I'm going here now, and you can see we have a lot of options here and a lot of flexibility for the cards that you can add, for the views that you can have, right? Now, for instance, in this project board for this particular repository, I have this rating feature to the bookstore, which has been assigned to me, right? Now, at GitHub, we are using project boards extensively. The great thing is that you can easily filter on the project using labels, or you can use a keyword. So for instance, if I used EMU, which is our enterprise managed users and seems to be very popular currently, this is something that will come up. So as you can see, there are different views in which you can see these, and these are very handy. Again, there's no context switch from within the place that you are storing your code. You can go back and look at the project boards. Okay. Now going over to my code um, tab here again, you'll see that this issues, if I go into issues, like I said, this is a place where we are allowing you to create a place for collaboration, for discussing a particular feature enhancement or a bug, etc. And Now let's think about why this was even created, right? Now in today's world where there are global teams who are remote, now imagine that this new project is coming up and people want to create requirements. If you did this in a Word doc or say a offline sort of media, it's not really connected to your code, is it? And it's very difficult to refer to a particular file or a commit ID or a branch. If you did that in, say, Docs or Word, that's not very easy to do at all, right? And that's where issues comes in. So I can easily tag someone within an issue by using the @ command, and I can see names. I can even tag a team, right? So which is so easy to do compared to a Word doc, for instance. Now, there are a number of features, like I said, that we keep rolling out. This is something really cool. Basically, you're using Markdown. So for your flowcharts, for instance, if I wanted to change this flowchart here and say, change this, it's as easy and simple to do this. So instead of using another tool to create all of these flows in Markdown, you can use this right within issues. Okay. Now, once this issue has been assigned to someone, right? Now, suppose I assign this to myself, the next thing a developer would do is go ahead and work on their code base. Now, one of the main things that GitHub recommends is that you do not work on the main branch, right? What you do is instead create a feature branch. So for instance, I created a feature branch, say feature 2. Now, what happens is I have a copy of the main code base on this branch. So what this helps you to do is maintain the code sanctity of your production branch. So you're not accidentally creating changes or changing anything that your teammates are working on, for instance, right? One thing, for instance, now suppose this is my branch now. Think of this as my sandbox environment where I can make changes without affecting anyone else. Now, suppose I had to just change this readme out here, right? And see, I said sample. Again, a best practice is to create a new branch and propose these changes. Of course, for a developer, this wouldn't be as simple as updating a readme.md. But the main thing is when I create a pull request, what I'm doing is essentially raising a flag to my team lead or my peer saying, hey, I have made my code changes, and now you can go in and look at the changes that I'm introducing before these can be merged back into my production branch. Now, if I had a reviewer come in, all they had to do was look at this pull request and go over to the files changed tab here. And what GitHub allows you to do is look at this really rich diff of all the changes that were made. And of course, this is just a very simple change, as you can see. But imagine this on a code base, right? This is an extremely handy feature that they can use. Now, in a pull request, at this point, an approver can comment or approve or request changes before they submit the review. Now, you can see the approve is blocked out for me. And why is that? Because I have settings here that has a branch protection rule. So if I have opened the pull request, then I myself cannot approve these changes, which is a very, very handy way of ensuring code sanctity, right? A pull request also gives you this beautiful commit history here. So you could see a bunch of things, who worked on it, what time they worked on it, and this is also verified. So it's extremely useful. Now, suppose a developer was working on this code and they had some questions about, hey, why was this feature request or this issue even created? GitHub gives you another place to discuss these changes. So all they had to do was go over to the discussions tab. Now, why are we creating or giving you one more chance to do this, right? This is because we realized that before an issue is even created, there might be a lot of back and forth about it, right? So what we do with discussions is you can get general ideas, you can ask questions, and this can be not just for your team, but for the wider community as well. In fact, I'll show you an example here of next.js. They are using discussions pretty widely to look at all the companies that are using next.js, all the hiring events that are happening, or just for simple show and tell. And this is really very handy because it's right next to the code and the issues that you're working on. Okay, now let me go back to my code. Sorry, let me go back to my code tab here. And there are a couple more things I want to just talk about. So when you look at this repository landing page, you'll see that GitHub is smart enough to actually surface a few insights. So you can see that the languages being used within this project are already being surfaced. So this is really handy, say when you want to hire someone in the team or when you want to know what kind of skill sets or languages they need to know in order to work on this project. Then you can define environments here. So environments are used to describe a general deployment target. This can be, say, prod or staging or development. Now, what packages allows you to do? And you can see there are some packages here already. And think of it as an image that's ready to deploy, which will cover the continuous deployment portion of your software development lifecycle. And GitHub Packages basically combines your source code and packages in one place, including your containers and other dependencies. Now, what else? So another thing we can see here is releases. We don't have any published here, but basically releases are GitHub's way of packaging and providing software back to the users. Okay, so we looked at all of these amazing ways in which you can collaborate, which is so simple to use. One thing I did show you was code spaces, right? So if, say, you are traveling or you needed a developer environment, which was very different from how your local laptop or workstation is set up, all you have to do is create a new workspace. Now with GitHub, we offer you all of these different options. And the good thing is these can be managed in the settings. So you don't have someone going crazy and just creating 32 core, 64 gig machines, which are just hanging on forever. But now think of this use case, right? You're working on a client project. They needed this a machine with this much capacity. Now, typically what you would do is procure this hardware, but after that project is done, what do you do with it? You have a really expensive piece of hardware lying around, right? And that is the beauty of code space. So you can just spin up a machine really quickly. Now, for instance, I have this opened up already. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the code space. And you can see how easily it comes up. Now, you'll see this IDE. It's very similar to what your IDE would look like, right? So I was working on the MFS bookstore repository. You'll see all of my source code, all of my files right over here. One thing with code spaces is now we talk a lot about as code, correct? So think of this dev container.json as a magic sauce of how you can configure your code space. So this is basically GitHub's way of providing you a policy as code environment. Now, this config file can be managed as code in the repository and shared with all the other developers in your team. Now, this essentially eliminates the per developer configuration activities and ensures consistency, right? So you can see you can define things like the port forwarding or the extensions you can use, even the look and feel of how this code space would look like. Another amazing thing here is it is natively integrated with GitHub. So I can look at the pull requests or issues and I can make code changes and directly commit it to GitHub from here itself. So this was about code spaces. Okay. Now, okay, where? Let's go back to the presentation now. Folks, I know I went through a lot of things. So any questions here, please feel free to ask. For folks who have just joined us, essentially we are going through GitHub Enterprise features. We are talking about collaboration. So we talked about code, the landing page of your repository. We spoke about how you can collaborate with issues, with discussions, with project boards, with code spaces, how pull requests can be used to ensure that there is code sanctity and you're not making accidental changes to your main production branches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now. So you can see all of these amazing enterprises who are using GitHub, and you can see all the increase in performance, say 4 times increase in performance, 30% increase in productivity, just by leveraging the collaboration features that GitHub Enterprise provides. And basically what we are doing is using this concept called inner sourcing. Right? If you've heard of it, inner sourcing is essentially using all the best practices that you would use in an open source project within the confines and the boundaries of your enterprise. Okay, any questions so far, folks? Please do enter them, or I'll move on now. Vinayak, how are we on time?
We are almost at the halfway mark. I think there are quite a few questions coming in. I think Kandali and me are answering those.
Okay.
I think the most common question is regarding the difference between Azure DevOps and GitHub. I mean, we've answered them, but like if you would like to answer that, we can take that up.
Okay, so we do have a slide in the end explaining some of this, so I can go over it then, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. So now let's talk about code to cloud DevOps with GitHub, right? Now, why am I even talking about this? So one of the main reasons I want to highlight this is for the longest time, GitHub was known as just a source code version control tool. Today, that's no longer the case. We are automating your workflows and pipelines and building a fully SaaS CI/CD environment that works with all your other DevOps tools. So essentially, you'll see this as a recurring theme. With GitHub, we want to ensure that the developer is the happiest person. They get to choose what framework, which tools they want to use, and they can plug all of these seamlessly in within GitHub. GitHub Actions is the #1 CI platform on GitHub. Think of this as our automation platform. And GitHub Packages is our platform for hosting and managing packages, including containers and other dependencies. This is something I had shown you on the main page of the repository. Now, the best thing about Actions is that there's a good chance that many of you and your developers are already familiar with GitHub and know and use it on a daily basis. So unlike a CI tool out there, say like Jenkins, you don't need to cultivate any in-house expertise. And that's really the beauty of Actions. Now, another amazing thing I think about Actions is that there are a lot of triggers or hooks that you can use to trigger off this automation. So this is beyond just simple CI/CD, and you can you can automatically build or test or integrate your code changes. You can even deliver the code changes to your production ready environments for approval, and you can even deploy these changes to customers directly as well. And that is what is so amazing about Actions. The good thing is, just because of the humongous community that we have, right? You can, of course, build your custom actions, but using the GitHub Marketplace, which is free for you to use, you can actually leverage actions which have already been created. And these have been created, these are first party integrations. So these have been created by companies like Microsoft, by Azure, essentially by AWS, GCP, Tencent, DigitalOcean, all of these companies and cloud service providers, a ton of them who have actually published this on GitHub Marketplace. And I will show you this in my demo in a second. I'm going to go back to my main page. Now, hey folks, to everyone who's joined, welcome to GitHub Enterprise session. We've covered the collaboration piece of GitHub Enterprise. Now, let's look at the automation piece, right? If you notice, if I went into the pull request, right, and I look at this update readme.md, you'll notice that there are a number of steps that were automatically kicked off. Now, this is not something that I manually configured, right? When if you basically define pipelines and some other tools, then in GitHub, these are essentially called workflows. So if I looked at, you'll see there are a number of build or container image publishing steps that took place. And if I went over to the checks over here, you'll see that these actions are very visual. You can drill down into each of these. You can see all the logs as your automation is running. And that's really the beauty of actions, right? So you can quickly figure out what went wrong, what's not working. Now, if I went to the one way I showed you was from pull request from the checks tab. Another way is if I directly navigated to the actions tab from your main page of your repo, you'll see all of these workflows that have been defined, right? I was talking about marketplace. Now, if I went over to the marketplace here, as you'll see, this is something that you can access today as well. And there are a number of actions, over 12,500 actions, which have been published. Right now, for instance, if I had to look at Azure, you'll see all of these actions that have been published by Azure. And we give this verified tag by GitHub to let you know that the creator is the organization that claims who they are. Okay, and if you didn't know what to search for, essentially you could also look at all of these categories that we have on the left and quickly look at something that you wanted to use. So for instance, if I had to use a web deploy, you can see that there are a number of things that come up, right? So if I went into this action here, the best part is you can just by a click of a button use this action. There's a lot of documentation that is provided. There's a lot of sample code snippets that you can see. So essentially what we are helping you with is giving you these Lego blocks, right? And you can use these and build on top of that. You can create your own, say, Star Wars Lego, or you can create just a simple helicopter if you wanted to. But essentially, we are helping you speed up your deployments that much faster. Now, I won't do a deep dive of actions here because we have another session planned for that. But let me just show you where you would define your custom actions if you wanted to. So within the code tab, we have a .github folder and we have the workflows folder under that. And as you can see, these are simple YAML files, right? So if I looked at the deploy environment to Azure YAML file, this is the name of my action. Okay, this will show up when this action or this automation is running. And there are essentially two parts to the action. The on part is the trigger on which this action will run. And like I said, and I showed you in the figure before, this can be as simple as changing a label. This can be something as opening a pull request. And once that trigger is created, you can actually run these on a matrix, or you can have multiple runs on, say, Ubuntu or Windows at the same time. One of the main things you'll see here is the steps. So once the trigger happens, steps is essentially all the steps that will run for this automation. Over here now, as you can see, because this is the deploy environment to Azure, one of the first things that you will see is the checkout one, right? So let me just go back to the steps. So this is essentially an action that GitHub provides. And what it's doing is checking out the latest version of your code onto the runner. And you can use GitHub runners, or you can use your own self-hosted runners. One good thing to note is with GitHub Enterprise, you are eligible for up to 50,000 action minutes per month, and they reset every month. Okay. Any questions so far, folks? Please feel free to type them in the Teams chat. So going back to my presentation here, this is how Decathlon increased their deployment velocity and reduced time to new features. The main thing is just with all the automation that's already there, All you have to focus on is your USB, all the changes that you need to do, and all the customization that you can do so simply because you don't need any specific in-house expertise to use actions. So we covered the collaboration piece of GitHub. We looked at the automation piece. Let's look at security and compliance, right? And this is so important, I'm sure, to all of you and all your clients. Now, why are we talking and focusing so much on code security? And because, there are a lot of tools out there offering network security, say firewall security. Now, this is because when you fix a vulnerability at the beginning of your software development lifecycle, it's much cheaper than fixing it in your production version. And of course, we all know this, right? If God forbid things went bad in production, not only the amount of money to fix that or remediate those changes, but even your reputation is at stake. So we need to ensure that security is an integral part of your software development lifecycle right from the beginning. And that is what we refer to as shifting security left. And this is because today, if you look at a modern software supply chain, 80 to 90% of the code comes from open source. And your code is really 10 to 20% because you want to go to market faster. There's no way you stop your team, and you shouldn't, from using open source libraries because they're going to help you accelerate software development. All you need to ensure is you're taking care of those vulnerabilities, of those risks that might be introduced when you're using these. Okay. So the way GitHub secures your complete software lifecycle is in three ways. We spoke about supply chain, which is the open source components, right? Where is all this code coming from? So GitHub's dependency graph automatically recognizes these dependencies in your repositories. Depender bot, which is this bot which runs, can automatically open a pull request with the vulnerabilities and even potential remediation. Think about it from a developer's perspective, right? Not everyone is a security expert. So if you have a bot running in the background, it just makes your life so much simpler, right? Code scanning scans your code for vulnerabilities and reports the results inside a pull request if it is configured to do so. With secret scanning, you can help prevent the fraudulent use of secrets that were accidentally committed to your code. And important thing to note is the all these secrets that are accidentally leaked. Most of the times, this is not a malicious thing, right? This is something that can happen accidentally, especially when you're working under tight deadlines and you have to release something in production. So if you have all these features already integrated, it's that much easier to ensure you're not making these accidental mistakes. You can look at branch protection. I showed you the pull request, right? Where I couldn't approve my own pull request. And that's a way to enforce requirements for pushing to a branch or merging pull requests. Commit signing helps you to ensure that all the commits are signed before they're even created. And again, folks, actions and GitHub Advanced Security is something we can have separate sessions on. There is so much to cover, but I did want to give you a brief overview of all these features in this session. Another thing to note is that most of these features are part of GitHub Enterprise. But if you looked at secret scanning or you wanted code scanning, then they are part of an umbrella of products, features which are under our product called GitHub Advanced Security. And that is a billing layer on top of GitHub Enterprise. Okay. Now let's go into a demo and actually see these in action. And it's very exciting to look at all of these. So I'm back to my favorite main page of the repository. I'm going to go over this again, the code issues, pull request discussions. This was all the collaboration piece of it, right? Actions was where our automation was defined. Now let's look at the security tab and let's see all these amazing insights that GitHub is surfacing for us. Now, if I went into the code scanning alerts, you'll see that I can filter these by tools. Now, CodeQL is GitHub semantic analysis tool. And of course, because I haven't made those certain changes, it's not surfacing any vulnerability here. But there are other tools you can easily integrate it with. by adding the scanning tool here. And this is exactly what I meant by, the flexibility that we are providing you with integrating all of your favorite tools within GitHub. Secret scanning alerts. Now, as you can see, this Google API key was hard-coded in the code, and we don't want this. So if you drill down into this, you'll be able to see all the potential remediations as well that were happening, all the dependabot alerts. Now, another thing you will see here, if I went to the pull request and you looked at all of these, you'll see these were not opened by a person. They're actually being opened by dependabot. So like I said, a bot is running in the background and making your life so much easier. For instance, seems to be a simple fix, right? But now think about your developer who's working on some really tight schedules and really high pressure deadlines. This is something that can be easily missed. But if you have a bot which is opening a pull request for you and even telling you what the problem is, this is something you can change in the click of a button, right? Here it's a simple version change. All I had to do as a approver was look at these files and review these changes and push these changes back into production, right? Now, let's look at a few of the features here. One thing this is Octodemo. Now this is the main page of my organization. Okay, so I'm going to try and open my camera again here. Guys, again, so sorry for the light situation here. So think of GitHub Enterprise and then all of the organizations under it. So all the repos are essentially going to be defined under your organization. Okay. So this is where you can either find a repository or you can create a new repository from a template. And what the organization allows you to do is invite all these people and then separate them into teams. So this provides you a way of, say, role-based access control that you can do, right? Insights is pretty handy. And say as an admin, now a lot of the things I talked about, I think I'm getting some bandwidth issues, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna have to go off camera again. So when I'm talking about the day in the life of a developer, we looked at all the features that GitHub Enterprise provides, but also as an admin, there are so many things that GitHub will offer within a single pane of glass, like this activity overview. So where is it that your team is spending most of their time, for instance? What are all the dependencies within your organization? And what are the security advisories? What are the licenses being used? This is extremely helpful for someone who's managing this instance, right? Now, there are a few settings here as an admin that you should look at. For instance, what you can do is you can configure authentication security. Now, today, even while accessing email, we are using two-factor authentication, right? And this is where you can set this up for your GitHub organization as well. You also have ability for single sign-on. So if you have an identity provider which offers SAML 2.0 tokens, this is a place where you can configure that as well. For a lot of the admins, member privileges are another important thing to look at. So basically, you want to ensure that, excuse me, members will be able to create only selected repo types, right? So this is where you're defining the visibility of the particular repositories. Can these members fork your repository or not? For the outside creators, can they be allowed to do certain things? Can they create pages? What kind of visibility will those pages have? So essentially, there are a lot of granular permissions that you can get with GitHub Enterprise. And billing and plans is something they would be interested in. You can figure out how much the consumption was, when that would reset your quota. And this is very helpful for someone who's managing this instance. Okay. So I think I covered most of the things on security. Now, on the interest of time, there are a couple of things I want to finish quickly. Vinayak, what's our time like?
We have about 12 to 13 minutes. We can go a little bit over if that's needed.
Okay, sounds good. So this is another sample case from Dow Jones and how we are helping them with their security controls. And this is like a one-pager snapshot of most of the things I spoke about around collaboration and automation and security. Look at the numbers here, folks. Like the stats are really mind-boggling, right? And this is something we have found from using GitHub, from having GitHub Enterprise being used by so many organizations around the world. Now, I spoke about collaboration, I spoke about automation and security. The fourth pillar that I had spoken on about on top of our community powered platform was developer talent. Now, as you all know, today developers are so valuable and they really are going to be the most valuable assets of the coming days and years, right? So what we are trying to do at GitHub is lower the barrier to entry to software development. We are doing this by providing programs like GitHub Learning Lab, by GitHub for Education, GitHub Campus programs. GitHub Learning Lab, for instance, is at lab.github.com. It's a really interactive bot-led courses that you can have, and it's really fun to use if you don't want to just go through videos on your own. So I would highly recommend that you guys check this out. Now, from this session, if there's one URL that you should definitely save is this docs.github.com. We have very rich documentation of all the features that I spoke about, and we keep releasing new features almost every week. So it's great to go over here and check out what's happening. Now, let's look at the deployment actions on options on GitHub, right? GitHub comes to you on the enterprise side in two main flavors. So this can be GitHub Enterprise Cloud, which you can see to the left. GitHub Enterprise Cloud is a secure, high-performing SaaS platform. So think of this as simple as signing up for a Gmail account. And the GitHub Enterprise server can be deployed in your data center or on your own control servers in the cloud. So typically, customers from highly regulated industries would choose this option. Okay. These are a list of resources which I will be pasting in the chat later on. So do take a look at those, please. Now, moving on, let's talk about GitHub and Azure together. If you see, Azure already provided a number of features that could be used across your software development lifecycle. And with GitHub, this is only becoming better. For instance, with the plan and track phase, you can lay out your epics, your features, your user stories, but you can also track bugs using GitHub issues and discussions and use Azure boards. On the development side, of course, a lot of you here, I'm sure, have used Visual Studio. Now, code spaces, think of it as Visual Studio++. So while a bot runs in the background to identify and alert you of security vulnerabilities as you're coding, that's something that Dependabot is something that will surface to you. You can also collaborate on your source code while avoiding conflicts, and this is done by our pull requests. So the deliver phase is building your code and running automated and manual tests. You can package your solutions, and all this can be used with the pre-built integrations with Azure. In the operate phase, you can monitor telemetry from your systems using GitHub Security Center and GitHub Insights. So today, if you're already using Azure, the main thing is we do not want you to say rip and replace, right? This is really a short summary how you can get started with GitHub. So start with moving your repositories from GitHub. You can use all of these community-centric workflows, all of the amazing features that we are providing, and you can keep your builds and boards in Azure DevOps. So that's the question someone had, and I hope this will answer some of that. We would love to, if you could email us, we would love to answer that in depth as well. Now, please, once you say start using a new project and your code is on GitHub, you can start using GitHub Actions, and these will help you automate your CI/CD portion. Like I said, beyond CI/CD, all your planning, tracking, deployment phases as well. Now we have a number of workshops that we keep running. I will paste this link as well, so do check them out, and we will have subsequent workshops coming up. So thank you very much for attending. Again, apologies for my camera. There was some bandwidth issue here, but I hope this was useful. Vinayak, over to you. I think we have like 6 minutes.
Hi. Cool. I think there are lots of questions, so I don't know if we will have time to cover them all. But let me just try and curate, at least a few of those questions. I think one of the questions is there a best practices guide about how to manage secrets all over the whole organizations? Since most repositories will use the same, but some have more specific secrets. So I have partly answered the question. Azure Key Vault is one way that you can actually use to manage the secrets. You should never have them in the configuration file or in the source code. And I think GitHub actually enforces that discipline also by using code scanning. Dhanasri, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's a good answer, Vinayak.
Vinayak, I have also shared a link where how GitHub manages its secrets at different level, at repository level, at organization level. So GitHub has its inbuilt mechanism to manage and use secrets, which are being used by GitHub workflows and such.
Great, great. Thanks, Gandhali. Um, I think there were some questions about the credits as well. I think this a little bit out of scope, but I think I'll quickly answer because I think a couple of them, asked them about that. So you can get technical help by logging into Founders Hub, which is like startups.microsoft.com, and you can create an account and can get access to the Azure Technical Advisory as well as the Azure App Consult. And that is like your one-stop shop. You also have access to mentors. And regarding the credits, depending on the levels, I would say that if you have credits, activate both credits and all of the benefits you have, whether it is GitHub, whether it is Power Platform, whether it is Office 365, and start using them because we do bump you up to the next level as you burn through the credits. Yes, you have access to mentors through Mentor Hub. I believe that it is depending on the number of credits you have. Like as you go higher up the credits, I think once you have, if I remember right, I think if you have more than 5K credits, you should have access to the mentors as well, where you can have sessions with them. So we have a platform for that as well. Okay, let me go to some of the other questions. I think some of the questions have been answered in the presentation. For example, I think how do you enrich the CI/CD with security in mind? For example, how do I enforce my dev team not to use libraries certain licenses? Dhanashree, Gandhal, you want to maybe take that? I think this is because I think lots of startups do work with open source. I think maybe that's the reason why this question has come up.
Sorry, Vinayak, can you say that question again? I'm not seeing it here. What's the question?
So the question was, how do I enforce my dev team to not use libraries with certain licenses or the lack of, right? This is probably because I think open source, maybe some of the libraries may not be compatible with the licensing of the product itself.
Okay, so we have a feature called Dependabot, which basically checks the validity or and I mean the versioning, the if there are any issues with the dependencies that your code is having. Does it also check the license is something I will check and come back. So we will share our email. Just send you a question to our email. So we can give you like more detailed answer there. But I think Dependabot is something that could be used here to basically make sure all your dependencies that are being used inside your code are safe.
Cool. So I think Joseph, you asks if we already have code already in the GitHub account before joining MFS, is it easy to move repos to a new GitHub Enterprise account?
So if you're saying if you're already on GitHub, and you want to now use the GitHub Enterprise account, I don't think you have to migrate. I think you can just use your same account and activate enterprise benefits on it. But if you have any issues doing that, again, I would say, Vinayak, let them contact us. I will share the emails on this chat, or you can share them later when you share the recording, and let us know. We can help you with these situations.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while we answer your questions, I have posted a feedback form, so please fill in the form and let us know how this session went. And also, I'll be posting the emails of Dhanashree, Gandhali, and me while they answer any questions as you have. I think there was one question that I remember. I'm just trying to find it about multi-container deployment. I think Gandhali, you
Yeah.
had, yeah.
Yeah, so the GitHub action for ACI, right? It's still in preview. So if we have multi-container feature available or not, I'm not sure, but it is in preview. So it might still be, undergoing changes and such. So I would come back on that. We will give you more detailed answer once we check with our production roadmap. There is another question, Vinayak, from Krish, where he is asking or she's asking, how do we enable enterprise features? So the enterprise benefit comes with your MFS benefits. Vinayak, would you like to tell them how to activate it from their MFS portal?
Yes, I think it should be available. I don't have the procedure very handy with me now, but I'll just post my email address and then you can reach out to us, and I'll have either me or somebody else will reach out to you. So I'm just posting my email address here.
Yeah.
And Dhanashree and Gandhal, if you can also post your
Yeah.
email address, so
Yes,
we
yes.
can reach out. People can reach out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I will add is since all of you are MFS startups, you by default are all of you are eligible for the GitHub Enterprise benefit. You just have to go activate it from MFS portal.
Vinayak, there's also I think folks are not able to read the forms for the feedback.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I had the settings wrong, but I think you should be able to reach the form now. So if you can try now, it should work.
Hey, this is great, everyone. Thank you so much for all the questions. We really appreciate this. It's great to have this interaction with all of you.
Yeah, and we'll share the recording as well. And I think more important recording, we want it to be interactive. So we'll have further sessions. I mean, we'll repeat this session also. I mean, this is the second time in the day we have doing this. And we will also, we'll also be able to do like advanced sessions. So we'll be announcing them in the MFS newsletter as well.
There is a question about code spaces. So I think Dhanashree had shared a link, but we have plans to do a deep dive code spaces session as well. So just stay tuned on the MFS newsletter and you will be receiving all the information.
Yeah, and if you can just paste the link again and then or refresh the page, you should be able to access. I think there was some permission issue which I've fixed now. So for the response. Nadunas, do we have to pay back the credits we receive at 1 point? No, I mean the credits are once they are assigned to you, you can use them until you run out of them. And typically, if you're meeting the milestones as you're growing, we will actually bump you to the next level as well. So we can start off with 1K, 5K, go up to 25K, and then all the way up 120K, right? We are a little over time, so I will stop here, and thank you Dhanashree and thank you Gandhali for answering those questions, and hope to see you all in some of the more advanced session. And if any of your colleagues have not been able to attend the session, we will be sending out next month another session. We'll repeat this session as well as we'll do an advanced session. So keep an eye on the MFS newsletter when it comes to you. Thank you so much. And yeah, we have pasted our email address. If you have any other further queries, we'll be happy to answer them as well on email.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
everyone,
everyone.
for
Have a
joining.
good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.